Okay, it's not. Well, good evening, everybody.
Hey.
We're starting an exciting week. Quality Florida is this week. Their big gala.
On Saturday,
Let's see, what's happening next week? Yeah, Pride. Lauderdale. It's going to be
so excited about Pride. So
Bear
many
stage.
amazing people.
Tony apparently is, you're on the Bear stage.
I am.
Yes.
I'm not sure what I'm doing, but I'm doing something on the Bear stage, apparently.
And a lesbian stage.
Yes.
Trans stage.
Is that still happening?
It is. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. And all the talent we're going to talk about.
Big Frida.
Yeah, it's going to be great. Lots of news tonight. Well, welcome to Queer News Tonight, the world's first and only LGBTQ plus daily evening news. It's time to queer up the news. It's 8 p.m. Tuesday, November 9th, 2021, and we are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. So many of your important stories we're going to tell this evening on Queer News Tonight.
This is the world's first live daily LGBTQ evening news show, literally out of the closet and into the headlines on Queer News Tonight with Al Ferguson.
Thank you for joining Queer News Tonight. This is the world's first and only unedited live LGBTQ plus evening news show. Whatever happens, you will see it. Queer News Tonight is supported by viewers like you. We are part of the partnership between Happening Out Television Network and Hotspots Magazine. Hotspots is celebrating 36 years of the LGBTQ plus experience. We bring you the best of LGBTQ plus news, entertainment, and support of our community.
I'm your anchor at Queer News Tonight, Al Ferguson. And let's welcome anchor Jeff Oliverio. He is a founding member and treasurer of the Hollywood LGBTQ Plus Council, a unique community civic organization designed to unite the LGBTQ plus community in Greater Hollywood. The council will be hosting the inaugural My Hollywood Pride on January 22nd. Good evening, Jeff.
Good evening. Very happy to be here. Let's welcome anchor Tarek Turjuman. He is the host of Tonight with Tarek for Villain Theater, the only place for alternative comedy in Miami, and a member of the House of Yas.
Yes.
Yas. The Villain Theater's queer performance art collective and Florida's only all LGBTQIA+ improv comedy show. He is a queer, Guatemalan-born Palestinian comedian living in Miami. Good evening, Tarek.
Thank you for getting through that. I know that's a lot.
That's a mouthful.
Yeah, I tend to do that. Sorry. Anyways, let's welcome Tony Lima. He is CEO of SunServe here in Wilton Manors. He is a longtime South Florida LGBTQ plus activist and political advocate, as well as the anchor of the world's first monthly transgender talk show called Translation. Good evening, Tony.
Hey, Tarek. How is everyone doing this evening? We have so many exciting things coming up with Pride, with the launch of the Faye What show. My sister has an amazing show that you must watch Mondays at 9 a.m. Let's now welcome John Hayden, a reporter for South Florida Gay News, covering politics, arts, and philanthropic organizations. John has been a journalist for 26 years, much of it covering the stupidity and scandals of Hollywood. He's interviewed nearly every big name in TV, movies, music, and considers the time he spent with Cher as the best 4 minutes of his life. Good evening, John.
Good evening. Thank you so much. We are the reporters for Queer News Tonight, and this evening we begin with the queer headlines. The LGBTQ plus community in South Florida and across America is diverse. Our community across the world is vast, and here are the bullet points of the queer news for today, Tuesday, November 9th.
Well, let's begin by queering up breaking news. Sacred LGBTQ Pulse Memorial is set on fire. A man in a wheelchair was caught on video lighting fire to part of the Pulse Memorial last month. And the One Pulse Foundation has now released the security camera footage, hoping the public can help find the arsonist. In a Facebook post with the video, the foundation wrote that, quote, 3 angel banners were burned along with the other items within the affected area, end quote. 49 people were murdered and 53 people were injured at the LGBTQ nightclub when the gunman opened fire and barricaded himself in the building with the victims. The killer claimed allegiance to Al-Qaeda, but it was later determined that he was not connected to the terrorist group.
I just feel like we're seeing more violence against our community. I mean, we just saw the attack in Miami Beach recently. So, it's just a warning to everyone out there. They're coming for us.
It's a warning and really just a way to remember that our work isn't done, right? Like these midterm elections coming up are especially important in helping to stop this hate that continues to happen against our community. And when we add the fact that trans women of color are dying at almost a daily basis now, this is really an important issue to eradicate.
Yeah, and I think that in Florida, especially like Central South Florida, at first glance, our cities are very gay friendly. Tampa, Orlando, Fort Lauderdale, Miami. There's gay people everywhere, and everyone seems to get along with the queers, right? However, really, we're still very conservative. And most of the people here have, I would say, at least 60% of the people here, from experience and from being a comedian and testing my stuff, I can say a lot of people still have an animosity against queerness and anything, associated with manliness and femininity not being expressed in the way, cis people, mostly cis people express it. But yeah, I think South Florida needs to if we really need to if we're going to blossom as a state, which is always what we want to do. We keep building condos, but we need to build our our education and our progressiveness, because if not, we're not going to really blossom.
And I'm a little tangent. The worst part, the most disrespect we give to the victims of Pulse nightclub shooting is that everybody says never again, except it does happen again. We have not given them any sense of justice in the fact of making it harder for a massacre like this to happen. That is an ongoing disrespect that needs to be treated every day.
I have to say I have trauma over Pulse. My story is very well known. Eddie Sotomayor is arguably the most famous person that was killed. First name announced from Pulse. He worked for me. Top Hat Eddie. I always say his name in any connection with Pulse. Been to the memorial many, many, many times. I have video at ORMC when the Crisis Center was going on, and so many things. This is really a tragic thing. The loss of the angel banners and just the attempt. And now I understand it's different, but I draw a comparison to the importance in LGBTQ world. Setting fire, they had no idea, this arsonist had no idea how much damage they would have done. Let's just assume for a moment that the entire facility had been lost. It is very similar to, last January 6th in breaking in and attacking the Capitol.
Yeah.
Because for the LGBTQ community, it is a very similar experience. And that's what you did in terms of trying to, as an arsonist, burn the Pulse Memorial.
I have to say, though, it's kind of funny, this guy with his wheelchair, super Florida man, with this funny, not funny, but he is a funny character with his wheelchair, and saying Al-Qaeda, so this is the quality of people that do this thing, I think. But anyways, I don't know.
Yeah.
Very Florida.
Tragic.
Horribly.
Well, now let's queer up business. Major civil, human, and media rights groups threaten AT&T and DirecTV over One American News. Whew. On Monday, 16 civil rights, human rights, and media justice organizations called on the top executives at AT&T and DirecTV to cut ties with One American News Network, the propaganda channel responsible for spreading anti-democratic disinformation, promoting COVID-19 conspiracy theories, and fueling racism. What a great network. In a letter addressed to AT&T CEO John Stankey and DirecTV CEO Bill Morrow, the groups write that the company's support of OANN directly undermines their public commitments to race equity. The letter also notes that both AT&T and DirecTV bear responsibility for providing the channel with a nationwide TV platform to spread election lies and deadly health disinformation. The letter reads, quote, "We call on DirecTV to stop carrying OANN and for AT&T to do everything in its power to denounce and remove OANN from its lucrative platform," end quote. Queer News Tonight previously reported that AT&T helped plan and fund the creation of the network. I mean, I find this story about, AT&T that, puts on all of these promotions for even our own community events with, and putting things on to support the LGBTQ community, and then supporting a network like this to be very, it's talking out of two sides of your mouth, and they really need to step up. And, I'm pretty sure probably 2 or 3 of us out of this table have all do business with those companies. And, there needs to be more of a protest against this, because this is just, it's a national platform that's causing a lot of problems in our country.
They help fund our work. AT&T has historically helped to fund LGBTQ plus everything, right? From political involvement to social services to support for the trans community. So this is incredibly surprising. But like we were talking about before, like this is why we can't stop the work that we do. This is why we have to continue to have this show to educate people, to get people mobilized so that this kind of stuff doesn't continue to happen.
I have a couple of thoughts. First off, as to your point in terms of what AT&T does in support, well, we really like that and we welcome it, but you're a hypocrite because you're doing the exact same thing that you do when you donate to both the Republican and the Democratic candidate. You're just hedging your bets, and that's all you're doing, AT&T and DirecTV. That's what you're doing. We appreciate it. Thank you very much, but you're still a hypocrite.
And their allegiance is with their money. A lot of the intentions, and it's great that they give the queers money, right? But a lot of that intention, it's marketing dollars for them. They know that the queers spread the word. They know that queers don't have children, have more disposable income. You know what I mean? They're more inclined to try new things. So, I mean, it is hypocritical. And I think that as millennials come of age and Generation Z comes of age, and they're confronting these companies and
I'm curious.
Them to,
have you heard much outrage in the LGBTQ community?
No.
To AT&T, and there is my second.
Most people have no idea that they.
Everyone keeps talking about Chick-fil-A.
We have reported
it's not
it
the only bad
repeatedly here at Queer News Tonight, and the sad thing here is, where's the LGBTQ community? To voice our opposition to, now our advocacy groups are doing it, which I appreciate. But at the end of the day, if we can voice so clearly on Dave Chappelle and Netflix, okay, you can make many, many arguments against Netflix in terms of their decision and Dave Chappelle in his special. But what's happening at OANN is a dramatically toxic situation for our community. Where is our LGBTQ community to voice opposition to that? And the last thing is, to all of the ignorance out there going, free speech, free speech, free speech, you are the exact same conservatives that are screaming bloody murder about Twitter and Facebook. But OANN is okay? Free speech is not absolute, especially when you overtly lie and you try to incite medical misinformation and violence in our community. And that is what OANN is doing. And you know who is funding it? AT&T. It's unacceptable. And we should be absolutely saying it and saying it and saying it in our community.
Now, let's queer up the USA. History has been made. Austin is the first major U.S. city to stand with intersex youth. The City Council of Austin, the capital of Texas, and home to nearly 1 million people, has formally adopted a resolution that condemns gender correction surgeries that are performed on newborns and children that are intersex or born with intersex conditions. Such surgeries are usually performed to correct a child's genitals to align with their gender assigned at birth, often without consent or without parents having the express knowledge or understanding of intersex and disorders that cause differences in sex development. Intersex people have spoken out against the procedures in recent years, which don't always actually correct a child's sex and can lead to complications and dysphoria, especially since some intersex people do not learn that they are intersex or what intersex is until later in life. I think this is awesome. I think that this is really the dawn of changing how we see sexuality and gender, especially gender, right? And I think that we should all be comfortable in the body that we are born with. We shouldn't have to change ourselves to live out, what we need to live out. So I think I like this. I think it aligns a lot with what I believe in.
Especially since when you're young, when you're 6 weeks old, you can't make that kind of decision.
You have no voice.
Yet, ironically, the state of Texas, we just did this story a couple weeks ago, the state of Texas is doing a law that says no hormone treatments or anything once they get above 12. So it's kind of like, yeah, screw with your kid when they're young, but don't let them making decisions when they can actually have some agency over their body. So I think.
What state was this again?
Texas.
Oh, Texas.
Oh, that's shocking.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that there's, some progressive things happening in Texas just shows, and these are things that we need to highlight, some of the things that are coming out to support those communities, because, again, we all know the things that are happening in Texas with reproductive rights and supporting, women being able to choose how to control their body. So I think this is, let's applaud Austin as a bastion of progressive and liberalism in the state, in the red state of Texas.
It's just a little blue dot in the middle of a sea of red.
And it sets a very important precedent for the work that we do. Right now we have this. Now this is what we could base work here in Florida. It's never going to happen in Florida, unfortunately, at least not for the next 20, 25 years, but sets precedent to be able to do this in other progressive states and start the advocacy and education around intersex issues.
And also acknowledge that there's more genders than just, assigned male, assigned female, just based on a penis or a vagina. So we need to, dismantle that. Native Americans had 7 genders, and it's because some people were born with different genitals, basically. So,
but I think it's important, Tony, to realize that you're also seeing these are cities doing things even in a very red state, and it's helping create protections for our community, and that's very important.
In reporting this story, we have commonality with this story with Austin, Wilton Manors. Austin, Texas. Fort Lauderdale, Austin, Texas. One of the most significant LGBTQ populations in the United States is in Wilton Manors and Fort Lauderdale. In Texas, where is the top LGBTQ demographic in the state of Texas? Austin.
Yeah.
Make the connection, and that's why you're finding more progressive thinking going on in that little blue dot.
Great.
Now let's queer up politics. Log Cabin Republicans honor Melania as LGBTQ icon at Mar-A-Lago. Barely 2 years after they experienced the mass exodus of their leadership and membership over the group's then endorsement of Donald Trump, the Log Cabin Republicans held their annual Spirit of Lincoln Gala at Trump's Mar-A-Lago Club on Saturday, breaking the precedent set for the last several years of holding it in Washington, D.C., so they could give a special award to their guest of honor, Melania Trump. LCR gave an award to the former First Lady in addition to out former Trump appointee Rick Grinnell, Republican National Committee Chairwoman Ronna McDaniel, and Representative Chris Stewart. Watch this.
We are honored to be joining all of you for an event dedicated to recognizing and celebrating the organizations and individuals who strive to carry on our nation's legacy of equality and diversity. I'm humbled to be selected for this year's Spirit of Lincoln Award. I always strive to ensure my work highlights and promotes our nation's cherished principles of individual liberty and equality. Much like Lincoln's story, it is my belief that every individual and their experiences are what makes the fabric of our nation so strong and beautiful. I want you to stay true to yourself, live your most authentic life, and focus on being the best you can be. Embrace and empower your courageous spirit. This is what will make the greatest difference at home and around the world. Thank you, Log Cabin Republicans. Thank you again for sharing this beautiful evening with my husband and me. May God bless each of you, and may God bless the United States of America.
That's
you know what I love about this? That the video is showing you the only black guy, the only Asian, and the only Latino that were there.
Oh my God.
Right? The only ones are the ones that are like shown in this video. It's just incredibly disgusting.
Is Mary Todd Lincoln rolling over in her grave?
Yes,
she is.
Let's add a little
Breaking
bit more
news.
on the story that we have here, and Well, specifically, as we were watching the video here, what's your reaction in terms of nearly 1,000 people in the room, $1 million raised? What do you think?
A sea of rich white people.
Hypocrisy is live and well in Mar-a-Lago.
Well, I heard
Talking about
something
equality and diversity in a room full of people that are trying to take away the rights of people who are diverse and are looking for protection. So it's complete hypocrisy.
Yeah, it's like when Saudi Arabia started like a women's government organization with no women.
Yeah.
Right.
That sounds about right.
She got chosen because she has great taste and she chooses gay designers, I guess. You know, I think she's contributed maybe like that, and some of her choices.
She's iconic.
How much self-loathing
I'm not
do you
saying she
have
has
to
great
be
taste, but,
as
you know.
a homosexual to trek down to Mar-a-Lago and pay homage to the anti-pope of Palm Beach County?
The anti-pope.
I love
Actually, I'm very disappointed though, because the real gay icon is Tiffany Trump. Okay,
she was there. But,
she was.
she was.
She must have been furious. I have to call Tiffany.
And so was Jennifer Hudson, right?
Yeah.
That's what's really confusing.
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't know
Wait,
that part.
J-Hud was there?
J-Hud performed.
Yeah.
That just breaks my heart.
Oh wow.
After
Oh
party
wow.
was the after party. You know, I could bash all day.
Let's
but
do it.
I do want to make the note that you watch a very sizable percentage of our community. Estimates are 17% voted for the president in the 2020 election, and you watch the most powerful LGBTQ voices in America for conservatives. You watch them in this room. I just only point out that while we make the jokes of going, this seems ridiculous, it is not ridiculous.
God, it's happening.
They raise $1 million on a Saturday night. Of course, the one thing that I will say in terms of the ridiculousness is I am very surprised that y'all did not realize that Melania Trump is the most gay supporting first lady ever in history.
Oh, yeah. I must have missed that.
There was that
This
point.
day in Queer History Month.
Right. The one other thing that I will say, know thy opponent, know your opponent, and what we just watched. I got a Facebook Live on the way to an event that I was doing on Saturday, which actually interesting was the National Task Force, LGBT Task Force event, and Elaine Lancaster, who I have to say is a friend of mine, a very famous drag queen, she sits right there on the stage with Donald Trump, did an introduction in Orlando when he launched the campaign in Florida, and she did a Facebook Live, and she was in line at Mar-a-Lago, and I said, I watched it because I'm a friend of hers on Facebook, and it started to publish, and she called Queer News out, Queer News Tonight out, saying we should be there to broadcast, and we were talking back and forth, and I won't disrespect their participation because it is their right to believe what they want, even though we very fundamentally disagree with it. I tried to get into the room, however, and they would not allow me in the room. So, free speech only goes so far, I guess.
It's good to see that Elaine's on stage somewhere.
Shade. The shade.
And with that, let's queer up the United States of America. Veterans Day and Tomb of the Unknown celebrate LGBTQ veterans. Watch this.
The leaves are just starting to turn at Arlington National Cemetery, a new season beginning among the ageless marble headstones. At the heart of some of America's most hallowed ground stands the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. Near the tomb, you'll find a tree dedicated to the mothers of the unknowns. A century ago, it was the anguish of mothers that helped inspire the need for a tomb dedicated to America's unidentified war dead. More than 100,000 Americans were killed in World War I. In 1921, the remains of a single unidentified soldier selected to represent all his unnamed comrades lost in the war were interred in the first Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. The tomb, as we know it, was completed a decade later. In 1958, unknowns from World War II and the Korean War were interred. In 1984, an unknown from the Vietnam War was interred. But those remains were later identified, and that crypt was rededicated to missing service members. The unknowns at Arlington are never alone. The sentinels of the U.S. Army's Old Guard keep watch night and day. For those that do come and pay their respects, what do you hope they take away?
I really hope that they take away the gravity of the experience. As guards, we're out there every day. We see a lot, we feel a lot, we get to experience a lot, and I hope that the public can take away a little bit of what we feel, being able to be so close to the unknowns.
On the back of the tomb are etched the words, "Here rests in honored glory an American soldier known but to God."
Every year on November 11th, which is this Thursday, the USA honors veterans of the U.S. Armed Services with Veterans Day. This is the day when we honor those, both alive and dead, who have served our country. During World War I, Congress approved the burial of an unidentified service member in the plaza of a newly constructed memorial amphitheater. 100 years ago on November 11th, 1921, the first unknown soldier was interred there. Arlington Cemetery is now home to 4,723 unknown soldiers who have died in battles dating back to the Civil War. Speaking in terms of general population, that means approximately 330 LGBTQ+ unidentified service members are buried there, although it is possible that many remain unidentified due to having gone into the armed services after rejection from their families for being part of our community. Our hearts go out to all of the service members who have passed, especially those who were unable to live their lives authentically. The tomb of the unknown soldier is guarded 24 hours a day, so at least those individuals who are now forever in company and revered by their fellow service members and the civilians of the United States as well.
I love that Queer News Tonight is doing this story.
My dad will be very happy that we're doing this story as well, so I'm very happy that we're mentioning this.
And why?
My dad's a retired Army reservist, and he's very involved in the armed services community. He's retired now, but he's someone that makes sure I'm aware of all events that lead up to Veterans Day, and it's a very important day for all of us to remember. We're all sitting here because of veterans that protected us.
I watched this story live this morning on the Today Show, and I was really blown away about just the general information they were sharing. Like, as Americans, we should know this information. This is part of our historical fabric, and it's something that we should all be very well aware of. And it brought me to tears, actually, at one point. I just think that it's important for us as a platform here at Queer News Tonight to continue to share stories like this that aren't necessarily LGBTQ focused, but serve our greater consciousness as Americans.
I'd just like to point out that the 11th of November marks the end of World War I, and it was originally called Armistice Day. So while we also remember our veterans, let's also remember it was a day to honor peace, and hopefully that we will have no more unknowns and have more peace going forward.
It's important.
You know, and it pops right off of the page that the potential of around 330 LGBTQ unknowns at Arlington is very significant. And imagine the number of LGBTQ that are buried at Arlington Cemetery, and much less the overall number of veterans that come from our community. It reminds me to say, you know, when I was in the 1970s at the end of Vietnam, we treated the military with such disrespect, and I say we, I'm talking about America. I'm really glad that that has turned around. In the 90s especially, that began to turn around, and it has improved ever since. Some in our community, I have heard disparaging remarks about our military service, and I don't think it is fair historically. And the reason is because the military, through our history, especially over this last 110 years since the end of World War I, has been the place where the most progress in America has been achieved first. For blacks in the late 40s and the 50s, integration was happening in the military much faster than American society, then for women, and then for LGBT, and even through Don't Ask, Don't Tell. It was, whether you agreed with Clinton's policy or not, or the military's policy, it was an attempt to provide a bridge of transition. And Don't Ask, Don't Tell leads to so many other things, which leads to equality. I have attended a pride ceremony with the Joint Chiefs at the Pentagon. I mean, in 2013, 2014, whenever that was, that is just impossible. And then trans embracement, the president's rejection for 4 years, and what we have to the point where in this last month we've appointed or elevated the first 4-star Admiral, which is a general status in United States Armed Forces history, and Admiral Rachel Levine is trans. The military has been so ahead in LGBT and all societal rights, and we have a lot to be thankful for. I'm really happy.
And let's not forget our soldiers that are also agreeing to vaccinations.
Yes, that's
they're
right.
leading that also.
That's right.
They're on the front lines of that.
Yeah, that's exactly
Just
right.
to give a different perspective, I do respect the military, but maybe I don't so much, to tell you the truth. But that's because my experience has been different, you know? I'm a nationalized American. I came to this country. It took me 17 years to become a citizen. And I recognize the privilege that brings, but I also recognize the resource extraction, the poor people that join the military, the immigrants that join the military out of desperation. They're not doing it because they believe in what they're doing. They're doing it because they have to. And what's been done in Iraq, I'm sorry, but what they did in Vietnam, I would have been disrespectful maybe to the military as well. And this is not personal on the individuals. I understand their journey, but but I can understand why they do that. But I do not agree with how the country runs in military, and I can't agree to, and I will never agree to resource extraction, colonization, and all that stuff, which is literally what not just our military does, but most major militaries do. Let's be honest.
Mm-hmm. Well, while you're heard, I just remind all of us, of course, I remind all of us that Veterans Day does not focus on the armed services. It focuses on those people who served in the armed services.
Which is true, and they do deserve that. So that is our queer headlines for today. So let's catch up on the LGBTQ plus news surrounding COVID-19 with our special segment called Quarantine Quickies.
Queer News Tonight has reported on coronavirus on every news broadcast since January 6, 2020. Tonight we report that as of today, more than 3,322,000 LGBTQ plus Americans have contracted COVID-19.
Queer News Tonight remembers the more than 53,000 LGBTQ plus Americans that have died from coronavirus.
But the news is improving. Because of today, more than 432 million vaccination doses have been administered in the USA.
That is our pandemic news for tonight. Next, we report on our partnership with Sunshine Cathedral, the world's largest queer church here in Fort Lauderdale. We are broadcasting from our permanent set here at Sunshine in supporting that partnership. Happening Out Television Network broadcasts the largest LGBTQ plus religious live broadcast in the world, as more than 30,000 watch every Sunday at 10:30 a.m. Eastern. Watch this.
This is Jay Rodriguez, and Sunshine Cathedral is my queer church.
We would like to bring your attention to some of the services offered by Care Resources.
Mental health and substance abuse counseling provides individual, couple, group, and family therapy.
Risk reduction counseling is available regardless of HIV status to help people avoid or reduce the risk of acquiring HIV or other sexually transmitted infections called STIs.
Through patient-centered planning and counseling, Care Resource can help you take back control of your life. All of their services for persons who are gay, lesbian, bisexual, or transgender are available from therapists who are well-trained and highly experienced in the issues that are unique to our communities.
All of their services are available from therapists who are well-trained and highly experienced in the issues of our communities of color in either English, Spanish, or Creole.
Services are provided to those who do not have insurance on a sliding fee scale, which means they discount their fees based upon your income. And some client services are supported by grant funding and may be free of charge.
Next up, welcome to Queer News Tonight's Q&A on LGBTQ+ health and pandemic. Since February 2020, this segment has been unique in America, answering your LGBTQ+ community questions about our unique health needs. We are proud to have Queer News Tonight health anchor Dr. Howard Grossman.
He is an American pioneer in HIV/AIDS medical treatment and was the executive director of the American Academy of HIV Medicine. He is a nationally recognized medical expert and proud member of the LGBTQ+ community.
Well, good evening, Dr. Grossman. And before you're coming to us from Chicago, before we move into questions, tell us about what your thoughts are about this week's health news for our community.
First, Al, I have to tell you, every time I hear that Pioneer thing, I think I should be in a covered wagon.
Yeah. Oh, wait, you're not going to find any disagreement here.
But thank you all. I appreciate it. I don't think there was a lot of major news for LGBT health this week. I think I think it's the usual information that there is huge amounts of different disinformation out there, that people need to choose their sources carefully, that some of the people that are held up as role models are actually espousing really crazy stuff. And people just need to be thoughtful and careful.
There's a famous NFL quarterback only about 100 miles from you. Speaking of espousing, we hear you loud and clear. So let's jump right into some of the questions that we have for you tonight.
Hi, Dr. Grossman. What are your thoughts on the states that are fighting vaccine mandates for businesses?
I think it's sort of typical that these are the red states that have been fighting vaccine mandates all around, and I think they're basically just killing people, is what it boils down to. They're playing to this hardcore base of right-wing vaccine deniers. I understand that people are upset about mandates and upset about wearing masks. It's interesting to be here in Chicago now, where there are clear mandates and everybody wears a mask indoors everywhere, and there's no fighting about it. And you don't see anybody, unlike Florida, you don't see anybody kicking up a fuss. Here in Chicago, right outside the city, yes, you still see it. In downstate Illinois, there's still a problem. But I think, this is just going to continue to spread the virus, unfortunately.
Dr.
I'm sorry, vaccine mandates, again, we've said it before, go back to George Washington, who mandated that all Revolutionary War troops be vaccinated for smallpox. There's nothing new about this, and the courts have upheld it over and over and over again. This conservative court in New Orleans, the 3-judge panel that stopped the vaccine mandate from going through the other day, I can't see how that will stand in the future.
Doctor, I've got another question about treatment in Asia, but I want to play off something that you just were talking about, vaccines. I've heard a lot of people say now that a pill is available that makes it easier to treat and to reduce hospitalizations and death. Some people are saying, well, I don't need to get the booster. I'll just take a pill if and when I get a breakthrough case or if I develop COVID outright. What do you say to that?
Well, the pill reduces hospitalizations by 70%. That does not say that it prevents them all. It does not say that's a significant number of people who will still be hospitalized and could die. And then again, getting COVID, you could end up with long COVID. So the vaccine is going to prevent those kind of things. And so I think, it's very good for people, good news for people who have gotten infected. But why would somebody want to get infected in the first place?
Yes.
Also, Singapore is ending free COVID treatment in hospitals for those who choose not to get vaccinated. Do you think this is a good idea?
You hate to see anybody denied service. I mean, we certainly, when people smoke and they get cancer, we take care of them. That's just the way we do it here. I think in many other societies, though, they think about the greatest good for the greatest number of people, and they're more willing to go that way. Personally, I do think that people who don't get vaccinated for COVID are asking for trouble.
Okay. All right. And finally, Doctor, do you think that we're going to see a surge during the winter?
I think there's no question about it, but it's going to depend on where you are. So, certainly
we're in Florida, by the way. I just want to
we're
in Florida.
So we're good.
So we're good. Yeah. We're good.
We've been
no problem.
We've been exposed.
We're lucky enough that the weather is better, but with holidays, people are doing a lot more indoor activities.
Yeah.
Families are traveling. People are getting together in bigger groups. So I think that even in Florida, that's going to cause, and you've had rain all weekend, I understand, the last couple of weeks, and so people are indoors all the time. Certainly in a place like this where it's a lot colder, I think it's really going to depend on the vaccine rate, but I think we will see surges in those places. We're already seeing it in the states where vaccination rates are low.
Yeah, well, I'm good because I've taken my liver horse pills, and so I really don't have any problem at all.
I'm on PrEP, so I can get anything.
There we are. Well, that is this evening's Queer News Tonight's Q&A on LGBTQ plus health and the pandemic. We're here every Tuesday with Dr. Howard Grossman. We have done this now for a year and a half, he and I together. He's here to answer your questions.
That's the longest relationship I've had.
I've got jokes. I just got jokes. We're going to broaden this segment just shortly to other things besides the pandemic, because as we said, the pandemic in Florida is over, so we have nothing else to talk about here. Dr. Grossman comes to us from his new home in Chicago, where he is part of the team at the Howard Brown Health Center, the largest LGBTQ health resource in the Midwest. And remember, Howard, I promised to remind you, today it was we woke up to 64 degrees and we got to a high of 79. I'm sure Chicago is just as beautiful today.
It was 62 degrees here today, so
was
there
it?
you go.
Wow. Yeah. All right. We're going to come back to that the first week in December, and
we may need a global warming segment.
Exactly right. Right. Exactly.
Wow.
So thank you, Howard, for being with us at Queer News tonight.
Thank you all. Have a good week.
Thank you.
All right. We're going to finish tonight's Queer News headlines with a segment we call LGBTQ plus Flash News. In LGBTQ plus Flash News, Ariana Grande is wicked. That is all. Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo are soon to be defying gravity. Grande and Erivo will portray Glinda and Elphaba, respectively, in Universal's big screen adaptation of the Tony-winning musical helmed by In the Heights director John Chu. He has been attached to the project since February, and casting rumors for the film's two main roles have been swirling for months. The stars announced their castings in respective Instagram posts this week. Grande is sure to be a perfect fit for the vapid and pretentious Glinda, having played a similar character in the Nickelodeon sitcom Victorious. Ariana Grande as Elphaba is genius casting.
Glinda.
She's
Cynthia
Glinda.
Erivo
I got it backwards. Yep. Okay, all right. Beautiful voice. It's going to absolutely be perfect. And if you haven't seen the news, both of the original Broadway cast members are very supportive of it.
This could be great. Also, Cynthia could outact Adriana. Or outsinger. Yeah. Sorry, but maybe unbalanced for me.
Thank you, next.
Bye.
Thank you, next.
You think she'll be wearing the ruby red slippers or be, thrown over by a witch? But Ariana Grande will whip them with a ponytail.
I hope so. I love her. I went to her concert.
Me too. I did as well.
I just hate Ariana Grande. I would rather listen to Anita Bryant sing Kid Rock covers than listen to Ariana Grande sing 8 notes.
Oh my God, your gay card is suspended.
I'm going to take it from him. Yeah.
I didn't feel that way. But then
Push him to the ground and slap him around.
Yeah, that'll happen next. So Wicked
Lucky
is
me.
my absolute favorite musical of all time, up there with Rent. And I think Cynthia Erivo as Elphaba is brilliant.
Yeah.
I cannot wait to hear her rendition of Defying Gravity.
I was more excited for her than Ariana.
Me
I love
too.
her.
Me too.
LGBTQ plus flash news. Navy christens USNS Harvey Milk in moving ceremony. On Saturday, the Navy christened the USNS Harvey Milk, a fleet replenishment oiler named after a Navy veteran and one of the nation's first openly gay elected officials. The Office of the Navy Secretary tweeted on Saturday, "This great ship honors the hashtag Navy diver and hashtag civil rights activist Harvey Milk, who was forced out of the service due to unfair policies. Because of him, today our hashtag LGBTQ, hashtag sailors, and hashtag Marines serve honorably as their genuine selves," end quote. Former Navy officer Paula Niera, clinical program director for the Johns Hopkins Center for Transgender Health, smashed a bottle of champagne on the ship's bow before the launch Saturday into the San Diego harbor. Another great story about veterans. I'm happy to have this. I'm happy to see Harvey Milk being honored in this way, and I think this is a fabulous story.
I talked with his nephew Stuart Milk about the dedication, and he said the part that makes him happiest about this entire thing is that everywhere it goes, the ship teaches the mission of the person that it's named after. So when it pulls into Dubai, when it pulls into Cairo and its analog ports, the message of positivity and gay rights will float along with this ship.
That's great.
That is so exciting to know. That really is, because this is what we need. Like, it's about time that major LGBTQ icons are honored in this way. Like, we need a ship that's named the SSN whatever Sylvia Rivera or Marsha P. Johnson. That's what I want to see next.
You know, with all respect to Stuart Milk, I did diversity honors with him last month. I know he would get the joke, and Harvey Milk very likely would get the joke, that how appropriate that Harvey Milk has a ship named after him that was a fleet replenishment oiler. Just saying. And
full of semen. Right?
And right.
Coming to a port near you.
And that a bottle of champagne was cracked across his bow. I just think this is completely appropriate for Harvey.
Smiling down on us.
Wow. Let's end it there. I can't top that. My joke was stupid.
Okay.
Whatever. I was just going to say, what a big ship, you know. Like, sorry.
All right, so you are going to do the next flash.
I do. I realize that. Thinking about that ship. Anyways, LGBTQ plus flash news. 20-plus year General Hospital actor fired after anti-trans Admiral Rachel Levine comments. After 25 years, actor Ingo Rademacher, was that correct? Rademacher? Who cares? He's an asshole. Will no longer appear on General Hospital after posting bigoted comments about our trans Assistant Secretary for Health, Dr. Rachel Levine. On his Instagram story, Rademacher reposted a tweet written by conservative podcast host Ali Beth Stuckey, in which she referred to Levine as a dude and mocked the idea that she could be seen as an empowering woman. According to Showbiz 411, the repost could have been the final straw for the actor, who has been expressing his anti-vaccine opinions on social media and lashing out at fans who called out for him to be fired, referring to them as bigots and morons. His co-star on General Hospital for the last 25 years, Nancy Lee Grant, tweeted, quote, "The fellow actor Ingo Rademacher is mercifully no longer a part of the hashtag GHcast. Transphobia and misgendering are disgusting and should be unacceptable in any industry, including soaps, acting, etc. I stand with my co-star, Cassandra James, and the trans community," end quote. Many other General Hospital cast members have come out in support of Cassandra James, who is a transgender actress and part of the show's cast.
The role of Jax will now be played by anybody else, so I'm very happy to see that he's been let go from General Hospital.
The part that makes me happy is that the rest of the cast seems to be standing up, even though, because a lot of times by the time you've been on a soap 20 years, 25 years, you're the diva and anything you say goes. And I'm glad to see that that is not the case in this.
Yes.
I love the controversy that this is causing, because now the audiences watching General Hospital will be educated on what's okay and what's not okay.
Yeah.
I remind everybody, go back and watch. Last week I did a 4-part live interview with Admiral Rachel Levine. I thought about her a lot in the news of this story. And I brought up to her the Dave Chappelle special, where Dave Chappelle says that we're the gay mafia and we get what we want. Oh, I guess we did again.
Check.
LGBTQ plus flash news. Mr. Gay World 2021 is South African Hunk. After making headlines earlier this year for adjusting their current policies to allow anyone who identifies as a man to compete in their international competitions, a groundbreaking and inclusive move for trans men, the Mr. Gay World pageant has officially crowned its latest champion, and it is none other than South African heartthrob Lou Breitenbach. According to a profile in the South African, the 32-year-old from Boksburg, Johannesburg, is an actor who is only the third man in the nation's history to take home the crown, and the first to do so in over a decade. After founding the Boksburg Drama School in 2012, Breitenbach is also the director of the National Arts Association of South Africa and the owner of the LALT House of Growth, a talent development organization for aspiring actors. A passionate mental health advocate, Breitenbach also won the Mr. Photogenic, Personal Interview, and Viewer's Choice 2021 awards at this year's Mr. Gay World, which took place virtually. Happening Out Television Network is the digital media sponsor for the Mr. Gay World USA competition this weekend, the winner of which will go on to compete in Mr. Gay World 2022.
What'd you think?
I love that they're being inclusive of trans men.
Yeah.
Two thoughts. First, I'm working on Mr. Gay World USA right now. All the states have contestants here at Sunshine on Saturday afternoon, Saturday evening, and Sunday. Swimsuit, formal wear, interview, state parade. It's going to be fantastic. I've never done anything like that.
The work you give back to the community is endless.
It's
endless.
Endless what I do for our LGBT community. And the one thing I would say about this this guy, the only thing that makes that picture sexier is in my head hearing his South African accent.
Yeah.
Now we're at perfection.
Very excited. Do you visit everyone in the dressing rooms, Trump style?
I'm going to do extensive interviews. Extensive interviews.
Yeah. I love him. He's gorgeous, and he has quite the resume, actually. He's an actor, and he's an actor. Well, okay. Abs. He has 6 abs. Okay. Next.
But again, just coming from the sports world and getting all the pushback on trans athletes, this is a great way to show representation from the Mr. Gay World pageant. I'm happy to see this.
Yeah, sure.
I'd let him into my Johannesburg.
Oh my!
Wow.
South
We almost
Africa
went.
just sweeps.
Yeah. No, we almost went an entire show without one of those things that he usually says.
Yes.
Yeah, that's never going to happen now.
No. Anyways, you guys, that is today's news for the LGBTQ plus community on the world's first and only daily LGBTQ plus evening news show. Is our community important to you?
Then help us by liking and subscribing. Ring the bell for updates. Share this news with your friends and family. Maybe not that.
Is anyone else still shocked about John?
This is what you do to us at the end of every show.
I know, it's like we can barely
every
talk
time.
now.
Oh my God. Well, post this broadcast in the many groups you're a member
Maybe
of.
not just the last few minutes.
Tonight's stories about our community deserve the attention of your family and friends.
Queer News Tonight is the only live LGBTQ plus digital television show in the world that is out of the closets and into the headline. We need your support.
Well, if our community is to grow, we must tell our stories and bring them to the attention of the broader world. This is the only place in the world that tells these type of LGBTQ plus stories because they're in motion and sound. And that is the passion of Happening Out Television Network and Queer News Tonight. I'm your anchor, Al Ferguson, and on behalf of these LGBTQ plus reporters, the anchors of Queer News Tonight, including Tarek Turjuman, Jeff Oliverio, Tony Lima, and the guy at the end of the table, John Hayden. We will see you daily at 8 p.m. Good night.
Bye-bye.
Night.
LGBTQ plus news is vital for our community and for the broader world as a whole. We have enough enemies at Fox News. Tucker, Sean, and Laura are loud. We need passionate allies. Happening Out Television Network, Queer News Tonight, and It's Happening Out are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. Our community needs your support. Like this broadcast and subscribe now to ensure the growth of the entire LGBTQ